Have you ever looked at an elderly loved one during the cold season and thought, something feels different about them? Maybe they cough more, walk slower, shiver even when the house is warm. And the signs look so small, so harmless, that you just shrug and move on. But here's the truth most families don't realize. Winter exposes weaknesses you don't see. One day they're fine, the next day something changes, quietly, suddenly, and without explanation. And here's the question nobody wants to ask. What if those small things you ignored last winter, the tiredness, the chills, the mood changes, were actually early warnings of deadly winter sicknesses? Because for the elderly, winter isn't just cold. It's a battlefield. A battlefield their aging bodies struggle to fight. And sadly, many families only notice the danger when it's already too late. But you're here now, and that means you want to protect them before things get serious. Today, Dr. Livelong Research is revealing 10 deadly sicknesses that quietly attack the elderly during winter, and the simple solutions that can help you prevent them. And trust me, the last one is the most dangerous, simply because most families never talk about it. Before we begin, comment "I'm here" if you truly care about elderly health. And remember to subscribe to Long Life Elderly Wisdom with Dr. Livelong, where we uncover the silent battles the elderly face every single day. Now, let's get into it with the first and one of the most dangerous winter threats the elderly face. 1. Hypothermia, the silent body shutdown. Picture this for a moment. An elderly person sits quietly in the living room. They say they're just a little cold. Nothing alarming, nothing dramatic, just cold. So you wrap a shawl around their shoulders, maybe offer warm tea, and assume everything is fine. But inside their body, their temperature is dropping faster than you think. Their muscles begin to stiffen. Their heartbeat slows. Their mind becomes foggy, but they don't even know how to say it. That's how hypothermia attacks the elderly, silently. As we age, the body loses heat much faster. The skin becomes thinner, circulation slows, and the warning signals that tell younger people to get warm, they don't show up the same way anymore. So the body gets colder and colder without them realizing how serious it is. But the biggest mistake families make is assuming, "Oh, they're just cold, let me bring a blanket." A blanket alone doesn't fix hypothermia. What they need are warm layers, thick socks, warm non-alcoholic drinks, and a properly heated room. Sometimes, even mild cold can turn dangerous when you're older. And remember, once the body gets too cold, it opens the door to bigger infections. Now let's talk about one of those infections, the one winter seems to enjoy the most. 2. Pneumonia, the deadly lung infection that loves winter. Imagine your grandmother starting the week with a small cough, nothing serious. She says, "It's just the cold weather," and you believe her. By day 3, she's breathing harder. Her chest feels heavy. She looks tired even after resting. But instead of worrying, most families say, "It will pass." This is exactly how pneumonia sneaks in. During winter, cold air weakens the lungs. The immune system becomes slower, and the bacteria and viruses that cause pneumonia spread faster indoors. That ordinary cough you ignored, it may not be ordinary at all. Families assume it's just the weather or old age coughing. But pneumonia in the elderly can escalate in hours, not days. A simple home step like warm steam inhalation, keeping them hydrated, ensuring they rest, and watching for changes in breathing can make a huge difference. Because when the lungs struggle, the whole body struggles. And speaking of the airways, there's another sickness that begins even more quietly, right through the nose. 3. Sinus and respiratory infections. You know how the elderly sometimes say, "My head feels heavy," or "My nose is blocked again," and everyone laughs and says, "It's just catarrh." But then the blockage turns into constant sneezing. Then headaches. Then sleepless nights. And before you know it, the infection moves deeper. Winter air is dry and harsh. It irritates the nose, dries out the throat, and weakens the immune cells that normally fight germs. A simple catarrh can turn into a full respiratory infection faster than most people notice. Families often say, "Don't worry, it will clear on its own." But sometimes, it doesn't. Warm water, ginger tea, and gentle humidifiers can keep the airways moist and reduce irritation. These small things help the elderly breathe easier when the cold tries to tighten everything inside. But winter doesn't stop at the lungs or the nose. There's another danger, one that strikes the body where it hurts the most, the heart. 4. Heart attacks and stroke triggers. Picture an elderly man stepping outside early in the morning. The air is cold, sharper than usual. He walks a few steps, holding his chest. He thinks it's nothing, maybe tiredness. Minutes later, he collapses. Cold weather forces the blood vessels to tighten. When vessels tighten, blood pressure shoots up. When blood pressure rises, the heart struggles. And the risk of a heart attack or stroke becomes dangerously high. Yet most people say, it's just stress, or, he's getting old. No. Sometimes it's the cold quietly putting pressure on the heart. Avoiding early morning cold, wearing warm clothing, moving slowly, and keeping the body warm can reduce the strain winter puts on the heart. And speaking of strain, cold weather plays with blood pressure in ways many families don't expect. Let's talk about that next. 5. High blood pressure spikes. Now, let's talk about something many families underestimate. The way cold weather can suddenly push an elderly person's blood pressure from a calm 120, straight up to 150 or even 160. Picture this. Your elderly father is sitting quietly at home. He hasn't eaten anything unusual. He hasn't been stressed. He hasn't had an argument with anyone. Yet when you check his blood pressure, the numbers are shockingly high. And you're confused. You start thinking, maybe it's the food, maybe it's something small. But in many cases, it's not the food. It's the cold. When the temperature drops, the blood vessels tighten, almost like they're squeezing themselves to stay warm. But when the vessels tighten, pressure builds inside them. And when pressure builds, the heart is forced to pump harder. This is why winter causes sudden BP spikes in the elderly, even on calm, quiet days. Families often blame meals, stress, or maybe the machine is faulty. But the truth is that cold weather alone can raise blood pressure dramatically. What can you do? Something as simple as encouraging light indoor movement, offering warm herbal drinks, and checking their BP regularly during winter can prevent a sudden health scare. Because when blood pressure rises quietly, the risks rise with it. But the cold doesn't only affect the body. It affects the mind too. 6. Winter depression and mood decline. Picture a cheerful elderly mother who normally laughs, talks, and enjoys simple things. But when winter arrives, she becomes unusually quiet. Withdrawn. Less interested in conversation. More emotional. Or sometimes completely numb. Families look at her and say, "Oh, she's just lonely." Or, "She's just thinking too much." But winter sadness in the elderly is not just loneliness. It's deeper. During winter, sunlight reduces. And when sunlight reduces, serotonin, the chemical that helps control mood, drops too. The body becomes sluggish. The mind becomes heavy. And the feeling of sadness grows without any obvious reason. This is why winter depression is very common in elderly people. The mistake families make is brushing it off as old age mood swings. No. Sometimes it's the weather quietly affecting their brain chemistry. But small things can help. Letting them sit outside when the sun is warm. Playing their favorite music. Inviting them into warm conversations. And keeping them surrounded by soft, positive energy. Because when the mind feels supported, the heart feels lighter. But let's move to a winter problem many families fear, because they see it every year, especially in the mornings. 7. Joint pain and arthritis flare UPS. Imagine an elderly person waking up on a cold morning. They sit at the edge of the bed. Place their feet on the floor. Try to stand up. But pain shoots through their knees. Stiffness holds their legs like a tight rope. And every step feels like a struggle. Winter has a way of tightening muscles and reducing the natural lubrication between the joints. So arthritis pain becomes sharper. Movement becomes slower. And ordinary daily tasks become stressful. Yet families often say, "It's just old age." As if nothing can be done. But even though arthritis is common in old age, winter makes it worse, and that part can be managed. A warm bath in the morning. Gentle stretching. A heat pad on the joints. And keeping the room warm. These simple things can loosen the stiffness and reduce the pain. But winter doesn't stop there. It doesn't only tighten the joints. There's another thing it slows down, something inside the body that affects everything else. Digestion. 8. Digestive problems, constipation and appetite loss. You know, one of the most heartbreaking things you'll ever notice in an elderly person during winter is when they suddenly stop eating like they used to. Maybe last week they finished a full plate, but now, even their favorite meal sits untouched. They push the food around, take 1 or 2 small bites, and then quietly say, "I'm not hungry." But you can see it in their eyes, this isn't normal. Winter slows down everything in their body, including digestion. The cold tightens the digestive muscles, slows metabolism, and reduces the desire to eat. So when your elderly mother skips meals, or your father complains of constipation for days, it's not because they're being stubborn. It's not because the food isn't sweet today. It's the cold silently interfering with their system. The solution is simple but powerful. Warm soups that go down easily. Fiber-rich foods like oats, vegetables, and fruits. And warm water, because hydration becomes the first thing elderly people forget in winter. Just these small steps can bring back their energy, strength, and appetite. And here's one that many families never think about, but it can turn dangerous faster than you imagine. 9. Dry skin and dangerous skin cracks. Have you ever seen an elderly person's heels in the winter? Sometimes it's not just dry, it's cracked, deep enough to bleed. And most of them don't even complain. They just hide it. They think it's normal. But those tiny cracks, they are open doors for infection, and winter infections spread fast. Winter pulls moisture out of elderly skin like a sponge. Their skin becomes thin, fragile, and easily broken. What looks small to you may feel like fire to them. A simple crack today can become swelling tomorrow. And an infection that refuses to heal by next week. But again, prevention is simple. Moisturizers every night before bed. Warm, not hot, baths that don't strip the skin's natural oils. Comfortable socks to keep the feet warm and protected. These little habits can save them from a long, painful infection battle. And now, the final sickness. The one so silent, so underestimated. Yet often the very reason elderly people struggle all winter long. 10. A weak immune system, the underlying killer. This one is the most emotional. Because it's not loud. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't cause panic at first. It just quietly steals strength, little by little. You'll notice it when your elderly loved one starts catching small sicknesses repeatedly. A cold today. A cough next week. Fatigue the week after. And before you know it, they've been sick for the entire winter. Winter weakens immunity. And aging reduces the number of defense cells their body can produce. So even the smallest infection can turn into a big battle. Families usually say, maybe they're just tired. Or, it's just the weather. But inside their body, something bigger is happening. Their immune system is fighting, but it doesn't have enough soldiers. So what can you do? Warm meals that support immunity. Herbs like garlic, ginger, and turmeric. Light movement to keep the body active. Proper rest so the body can recharge. And stress control, because worry weakens immunity faster than cold air. Just these gentle steps can make a massive difference. And this brings us to the most emotional part of this entire video. The part many families don't talk about. But every elderly person feels deeply. You know, winter has a way of humbling all of us. But nothing hits harder than watching someone who once raised you suddenly struggle just to stay warm, just to breathe, just to move. You look at them and remember the strength they once had, the late nights they cared for you, the sacrifices they made, the love they poured into your life. And now, one cold morning is enough to shake their entire body. It hurts. It scares you. It reminds you how fragile they've become. But winter doesn't have to be the season that steals their strength. Once you understand the dangers, the warning signs, the risks, you're no longer afraid. You're prepared. You become their protection. So don't wait. Call them today. Ask how they slept. Check their room temperature. Offer a warm meal. That simple check-in might be the very thing that keeps them safe. And here's the beautiful part, even though they're aging, your love, your attention, and your awareness can still give them comfort, peace, and dignity. Their final years can still be warm, joyful, and full of life, because you're there. Today, we covered the 10 winter sicknesses, from hypothermia to pneumonia, heart strain, depression, joint pain, digestive issues, skin cracks, and weakened immunity, and the simple steps that protect the elderly. Now I want to hear from you, which of these have you seen in your elderly loved ones? Share your experience in the comments, your story might help another family. And if today's message opened your eyes, subscribe to Long Life Elderly Wisdom with Dr. Livelong for more life-saving tips and awareness. Thank you for watching. Stay warm, stay alert, stay caring, and remember, even the smallest act of love can save a life. See you in the next video.